Hello beautiful people, welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Miss Linda, a special needs educator, and today I'm hosting an amazing person. If you watch the previous video, you'll be able to flow with our conversation. So today we are going to learn and as obvious and as always, make sure you have your pen and you have your book, you're taking some short notes, and you're ready to ask questions that might pop up, or something that you're not so sure about, or something that you would want to know, or even you want to reach out to Trixie. Just make sure there's on the comment section. Welcome, Trixie.
Thank you.
On the second part of our video.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Trixie, having done, maybe can you do a little introduction?
Sure.
Maybe for the person who is catching up for the first time.
My name is Trixie Pujol. I'm a clinical counselor, and I've worked with children and families for 30 years. My specialty is autism and other developmental delays. I also provide clinical counseling to children and adolescents with anxiety and social skill deficits and depression and other areas, and sometimes with adults with autism. I'm originally from the United States, but I've been in Kenya for 12 years, and this is my home now.
Oh, this is your home. Yeah. And we love you here. So,
I love being here.
Yeah. So guys, I know people have got so many questions on autism. People really ask a lot of questions on autism. People are always trying to figure out for autism, and it is good to hear from now, especially to someone who has worked with children with autism for quite a long time. We hear now from your perspective. Do you think early intervention can cure autism?
Can early intervention cure autism? I think that's a difficult question you're asking me.
I know it's difficult, but people have always, and there's so many discussions, so many research has been done about autism. So I feel this is one of the questions that you find out parents asking, or people have assumptions. You can say for sure there's nothing like accurate answer to anything, but again, we can elaborate things in a way that it will be easier for a parent to understand, or someone who is watching, just to acquire knowledge.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, autism isn't diagnosed with like a blood test. It's not like malaria. You have it or you don't have it, or COVID. You have it or you don't have it, or you had it and now it's over. It's not like that. We don't give you some medicine and it's gone. So it's autism is considered a lifelong condition. It's not I wouldn't even say maybe disability. It's not a disorder, or like it's a way of thinking. It's a way of being in the world. It's how your brain is wired, and so that doesn't go away. You will always have maybe autistic-like characteristics. Your brain might think differently, might process information differently. It gives a unique perspective to the world. It isn't always a bad thing or a negative thing. And so I do think that, from the research and talking to people with autism, adults with autism, and people who have autism, it's a lifelong condition. You're always going to have autism. But can that autism look different? Can it change? We have a criteria that's very subjective. It's not concrete. And so when you assess or diagnose autism, there's no blood test. And so I could do an assessment with a team of people. You could do an assessment with a team looking at the same child, and maybe we'd have different opinions even. And so maybe you'd say the child meets the spectrum. Maybe I'd say the child doesn't. And so there is no concrete. So I think the same is true when you're talking about, I've worked with young children who've received really good early intervention. We were talking about early intervention last time. And early intervention and like really intensive, really on board families, and we got lots going on here. We have maybe speech and OT and lots of great interventions going on. And that child received it in the first few years of life. And after a few intensive years, they've moved on to like a regular school. They're, mainstreamed or included in that school. Maybe they receive a little bit of extra support, but down the road, they are functioning like their peers. They might have differences. They might look different, but they're going on to live an independent, full life. So, and sometimes they wouldn't even meet the criteria of autism anymore. But it's so subjective, you know, and I don't think that's the majority of people. I think even with really good early intervention, somebody would likely still have autism and still always have autism. But it's how they function in the world, and do they have functional communication? Or they have functional skills for daily living for their age and their ability in life? Can they attend a school? And it doesn't mean that it always has to be a school, a regular school. It can be a special needs school. You can still live a full life, whether you have autism that has, you know, come a long way, you might say, or, you know, you still have, you might be still nonverbal, you can still live a very successful life and a happy life. And so, again, autism is a spectrum. And, you know,
it's broad.
What?
It's broad.
It's broad. And I sometimes that spectrum is very misleading, that there's a high end and a low end, or mild autism or high functioning. And even I have, you know, used that language. It's hard to get out of that. But if we look at it more as a circle, and you have bits of it and pieces of it, and there's like some models now that look at it that way, that it's a continuum, that, you know, you might have a little bit more need in certain areas and less need, or strengths in certain areas and challenges, just like we all do. We all have our strengths and challenges. I'm a very good speaker, but don't make me do math, you know, or don't make me run. So, you know, we all have our strengths and weaknesses and our challenges. The same with a person with autism. And so if they get really good intervention, they might build some of their more challenging areas into strengths, and the areas that were more strong for them, if you can strengthen those even further, they might become the areas that they can excel, a person can excel in. And so again, to answer your question, no, there is no cure to autism. Autism is a lifelong condition, but we do know that early intervention and good intervention, I think that's the other key that we didn't talk about as much.
Early intervention, there's good intervention.
Yes.
And as a parent, you have to put these things together. It's like having a basket, one basket with early intervention, another basket with good intervention.
Right.
So you have to pick these two baskets.
Yes.
For us to be at least somewhere.
Yes. Okay. And that's hard as a parent, because there's all these practitioners. This isn't just in Kenya, this is all over the world. And there's different philosophies and different models and different approaches to working with autism. And you have to decide as a parent what makes sense to you, what's best for your child. You have to get educated. You have to decide what your family can afford, what's meaningful for your family and your child, and then weigh that out. But I could provide early intervention, but if you give me a child with something I know nothing about, I don't know a lot about cerebral palsy. So I'm a really good early interventionist, but I might not be very good at working with your child with cerebral palsy, because that's not my strength. I might do an okay job. But if you send it to somebody who that's their strength, a special needs teacher or a speech teacher or a speech therapist or an OT or a physio who knows a lot about that, they're going to do a really good job, and they're going to get a lot further, even if the child starts later, because they know a whole lot more about it.
So then that means the parent has to identify the needs of their child.
Yes, and then do their homework. Don't be afraid to ask a professional questions and challenge them, because I might say I'm an autism specialist, but you as a parent, you might not know who, what, why, how, you know, and so if 10 people tell you they're specialized in that, how do you know who really is good at it? And it's hard. There is no like clear answers, and because also in Kenya there's less accreditations and things that, you know, sort of anybody can sort of hang a board and say they do anything. It makes it a bit harder. It's true, and in some ways those accreditations are really helpful. They're kind of annoying in other countries. It's kind of time, you know, frustrating. But it still doesn't give the answers. Even in other countries where, you know, we're both accredited at the same level, we both might not be very good. You know, so you can have two pediatricians, and you know, one might be terrible. They're both studied at the same school. One might be a terrible pediatrician, especially for your family, and the other one might be excellent. You know, so you still have to do your work and ask questions and know what's best for your kid.
So the parent has also to do the research so that they can get the good intervention you're talking about.
And find what's best for their family, because that also has to work for their family. And ask other parents, ask other professionals, do your research. It's not easy. And I imagine if you have a young child with autism, or you don't even know they have autism, you're trying to figure all this out, you don't know where to go, it's hard. And so it is important to like go.
It even becomes more under when there's too much information out there.
You get on Google and you're like here, there, and everywhere, and you're like, what do I follow? What do I believe? Who, it's hard.
And then also parents comparing their children, you know, because the child has autism and the another friend has a child with autism, and you think what has worked for this one who's at autism can work for the others.
And it may not.
And sometimes it may not.
There's a well-known saying, I know you know it, in autism, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's no like two, if it's
Exactly
one, it's
the same.
one.
Yeah.
All right, all right, all right. And do you think now the parents should learn how to provide early intervention for their children at home, or do you think there's other way they can?
I think it's a combination, because if you can come to me even twice a week, you know, for an hour each time, and you go to an OT twice a week and a speech therapist, that's still only 6 hours out of the week. Let's say you can afford that and it works in your schedule. That's only 6 hours. There's 24 hours in one day. So you as a parent, even if you go to the best interventions, the best schools, the best therapies, you still have to know how to do this and how to follow the principles of whatever you've decided is best for your child. And so you need to take that initiative to work with the therapist, learn from the therapist, make sure your nanny, your house help, your grandparents, whoever's living with you, interacting with that child, is following the same things. Because just coming a few hours a week to someone's office can't work in isolation.
Trixie, I want you to repeat that part again. The part that you're saying, having even the nannies, having the parents, the grandmas, the grandfather knows this is the challenge and we need to work on this.
Yes.
Please, can you emphasize more on that?
I know there's a lot of stigma and fear of like using the word autism or whatever it might be, cerebral palsy, developmental delay, ADHD, but Down syndrome. It's really important we educate people, we try to break down that stigma. And we say we can help our kids, but Grandma, you're every day you live with us. Auntie, you're here visiting. You know, the nanny, the ayahs, the house helps, even the scaries spend a lot of time with their kids sometimes. You know, all these people. Let's tell them and let's educate them. Look, this kid has a lot of skills. We're going to teach you, and this is autism, and this is what it is. But you need to learn and bring them into the therapy sessions or teach them what show them the videos that you're watching. Educate them to how to best support your child and get everybody on board.
Oh, that's good. And I hope parents and whoever people who are viewing or our viewers, they're learning one or two things. They know for sure, they have understood the old complexity about autism and our intervention curing autism. It is now clear. They now know early intervention is very important. And
let's not work about curing. It's about it's not a disease we're curing.
It's a cure.
Autism is a way of being. It's like saying you know, let me think of something. You know, you have brown skin, so we're going to cure this whole thing of like lightning skin or something. That's ridiculous. You're beautiful for who you are and where you are. We don't need to change that. That is who you are, and that's okay, and that's wonderful. And I have a different color skin, and that's all okay. We don't need to change that, and that's the same with autism. Autism is who the person is. We want to give them the skills to succeed, just like we do with any of our children. And we want them to learn and grow, but we don't need to change that. We don't need to get rid of the autism or cure the autism. I know that for some of our kids it's really hard, and we want to give them all the skills necessary and give them as much intervention. But we're not curing a disease. It's a way the person is made. It's really important, the way their brain is wired.
That is very important, and that is very important, the emphasis you put on. I know those who are watching are able to at least learn and understand, you know, everything in the flow. Yeah, and I can't add anything much on what you've said. The only thing I can say, it's you are watching. Make sure you share this video, because I think more parents need to hear this. But now we have the information that we need. So make sure you capture the information, make sure you share with everybody, you know, and make sure you also check on Trixie's website. I'll leave it here. You know what she does, you know what you can be able to you'll be able to reach out to her. And yes, thank you, Trixie, for being on the board. I completely appreciate it. We still have another video with Trixie. Make sure you subscribe and make sure you ring that bell, so every time you're having a video, you're the first person to see and to know. Thank you. God bless.